So last Friday, you guys tackled new site 1, right? How was that? Felt like it all made sense?
Yeah.
All right. So I think as Tom mentioned, we're going to be expanding new site over the course of several days. So this is today I'm going to go over new site 2. It's going to make it a little more I guess, a website than it was before. Make it look better and make it a little more functional. And it's going to just grow and grow and grow further. So the things we're going to be covering for this part are going to be, main things are going to be React router and styling with Bootstrap and React Strap, which is Bootstrap for React. All right, so as you can see here, I am on site 2. Every time we do this, we're going to copy over a lot of our code. So if you look here at app.js, right now I've kind of changed things a little bit so it doesn't render a random article anymore. I just had it render a one particular one. So in the state for this one, this is a class-based one. I have nav items, which are this array of hashes with labels and values. I've got something called news, which is set to import news.json, this big thing right here. I have a function called handle title click, which just console.logs whatever you give it. And then in my return, I get a div, and inside that div, I've got an app nav, which takes in nav items and handle nav click. And handle nav click also just console.log something. And I've got an article teaser. And I gave it one article, just the first one in my JSON list, and the ID of 0, and along with handle title click as a function. And if I look at article teaser, I've got the abstract and the created day deconstructed from props.article. And I have it console.logging its ID when I click on the link, doing the abstract and created date. So I'm going to do PM start. Make sure this works the way I think it does. Doesn't need to be this big. Okay. All right, there we go. So I've got my nav links up here. And I've got this link right here. And if I go open up the console, it should console.log it should console.log 0 if this is working correctly. Okay, so all this stuff is working correctly so far. Does that look familiar? Cool. So I want to change a couple of things. First off, so I'm going to go here, localhost 3000. When I click on this in article teaser, I just set the href to a hash, nothing, because I don't want it to actually go anywhere. When I click on it, though, it does add this to our file, to our URI. And at the moment, it's harmless. It doesn't actually take us anywhere, but it can mess things up a little bit because with the React router, we actually want to be able to use our URL to move around and our links to actually take us places. I want to make sure that this doesn't actually take me to localhost 3000/hashtag. So anyone have any idea of what I can do in article teaser that might be able to keep it from doing so?
You reference the ID for the article? Return?
Well, I don't actually want this article to send me anywhere at all at the moment. I don't actually want this link to send me anywhere.
Can you prevent default or false?
Yeah.
Prevent default?
Yes, so I can prevent the default of the event. So whenever you have something like this with an on click, you can always take event as an argument here. I'm going to have to put this all in brackets and make it multi-line. There we go. So before I call on props that handle title clip, I also need to go event default. Yes.
No.
No. What is it?
No. I thought you had to close your event up, but I don't get it.
Yep. Make this look a little better. There we go. So now, if I go to local 3000 and click on this, it doesn't actually take me to add that, because event.prevent default will prevent the default behavior of whatever event is happening. And for a link, the default action is to update our URL. And we just say no, just don't do it. Okay. Any questions about event.prevent default? At the moment.
Oh, okay.
We're going to be expanding this over a couple of days. So right now, the article teaser is not really much of anything. We're going to be changing that. We'll probably change that today, but we'll be changing that over the course of the next few days. So for now, I just want it to be a link that doesn't work, because we want to give others what we want to do. Because we have a new component as well called article list, which at the moment does nothing. And because I want my homepage, instead of showing just one article or a random article or anything like that, I want it to give us a list of articles. So we can scroll through them and go to the one that we want. So article list, right now, it's just a class-based component that renders a div and doesn't really do anything else. So what I want it to do is I want it to get two things from prompts. I want it to get an array of article objects, and I want a handle title click function. So first I'm going to go to app.js, and I'm going to make sure that I'm actually rendering article list. I'm going to import article list. And I'm going to get rid of this article teaser. We don't need it anymore. Instead, I'm going to put an article list. I open up my components thing. Here's my article list with nothing in it. So I wanted to pass down the list of articles props, and we have that saved in my state as news. So I should be able to say articles equals this dot state dot news. And we also have handle title click already defined. So handle title click equals this dot handle title click. Open this up again, refresh, look at article list. Now in props, it's got articles and a function called handle title click. So the idea with article list is I want it to take that list of articles and turn it into a bunch of article teasers. So before I proceed though, right by default, we've made it a class function. Do you want a class component? Do you want it to be a class component or a functional component? What do we think?
It's only listing the things you can get away from.
I'm sorry, say again.
Because it's not doing anything besides listing the items you want to list.
Yeah, so you're right. It is not doing anything beyond rendering something from the list. So in that case, yeah, a functional component makes sense, probably. It doesn't really need to keep track of its own state, even though it could. So yeah, let's make it a functional component.
Does functional run any faster, or it's just less you have to go.
I'm not entirely sure about the comparative speed. I do know that it is less code, and the syntax is just a little neater. So, components, it's not working. Did I mess it up? Okay, that's odd. I've never seen it do this, where it's not even showing anything. Not getting anything in the console. Nothing beyond the usual stuff. Components. I'm not sure what I did. It's telling me to search something. I don't remember opening a search then. I'm going to refresh the page again. Or maybe, there we go. All right, we're good. It's still working. That was weird. I don't know what happened. All right, so we have a list of articles, and we need to turn that list of articles into article teasers. Right? So we can make a function to do that. You can say something like create teasers. And one kind of easy way to do this, if we want to turn one list of one thing into a list of something else, is using the map function. The map function will automatically iterate over an array and return another array of the same size with any changes we made into the function, filling that new array. So I would do something like props.articles.map, and then it takes an anonymous function, and I'm going to say article, and we can also give it the index number as well. And then we can say we need to return an article teaser, which we've already imported. Article going to equal article. And article teaser needed handle title click, which we also passed to article list. So we can just keep on passing that down the tree. You can also give this one handle title click is equal to props.handle title click. Okay, we have a problem here. Props is not defined. Oh, right, we didn't get a props argument here. There we go. And we want to make sure this is actually the return value of our function. I'm going to say return props.articles.map. And then here I want to call on create teaser. Rename that. So now I have a whole bunch of article teasers. All of them, that function's not changing this, so that function's still working. We do have an error in the console. What's up? Each child in the list should have a unique key prop. I'm sure you've all run into this before, it's very annoying. But that's why I did, when I used .map, instead of just giving it an article, I also gave it an index. So that way I can say key equals index. Oops, need to put that. There we go. Now it's not giving me that error anymore. Any questions on how that happened?
Yeah, I'm a little iffy on the dot app. Like, how is it like creating so many articles if there's a return statement that wouldn't it just
Good question. So we know that usually when you see a return in a loop, it automatically ends the loop, correct?
Yeah.
But so the argument that map takes is a callback function, meaning that this function, this nameless function inside map, is kind of self-contained, and the return value of this function doesn't end the loop. What this return value does instead is it populates the new the return value of the map statement.
and map returns an array?
Yep. So,
Oh, okay.
like, I can show you an example here. I could say something like,
Like we console log that, see the array.
yeah. So I could say map item. I could say item times 2, and then console.log this entire statement. Now I have a new array with all the values in the first array though.
That's kind of weird how that works.
And if like so that new array gets populated with other whatever the return value is of this thing. So I just did this, even without using item. I just filled it with 5 of those. So the general idea is you use map when you have something that you can iterate over, and you want a new array that is the same length as the original array.
So essentially, when you're returning, it's doing like the head for a push method in the background.
Yes. So in the past, for a lot of our things, we said like define an empty array, looped over that array, and then called .push and then return the array. So map kind of is a shortcut for that. Okay, because that pattern just gets repeated so many times that people made a function to do the same thing. Yes.
No, can you go to where like our handle click function, handle title click function?
So that handle title click is defined at the app level.
Okay.
So we wrote a function, just a very quick one-line function here called handle title click that just console.log whatever the return value is. And we defined it at app, passed it to article list as a prop, and then article list passed that prop as a prop to every article teaser that it made. So that's the cool thing about React is we can define things at the top level, and anything that's defined at the top level can theoretically be passed anywhere else.
And like a quick question, like when you're passing handle title click, like equals to props.handle title click, so that's because it's being passed down.
Yes.
But I think a couple times I had to make an anonymous function over there within that. Like, do you know when you have to do that?
Sort of meaning to run the function.
Yeah, like sometimes there will be an anonymous function to type inside it instead of just calling props directly.
Yes. So if we look at where we actually run that function, which is in article teaser. So I have this link that says on click, we prevent default, and then we can call props.handle title click props.id. But if we just change this up a bit and just said on click equals props.handle title click props.id. If I go here, so I just got 40 undefineds. That's a problem. A, they they don't have IDs, so I messed something up there. But did I click on any of these? No. Because the way JavaScript works is it goes over here, and it gets to line 7. We see href equals. This is JSX, not JavaScript, but it still runs very similarly. It gets to onClick and sees props that handles title with these parentheses. And those parentheses, in this context, tell JavaScript, oh, I'm supposed to run this function right now. And we don't want it to run it right now. We only want it to run when we click on it. So that's why we make it. If we wrap it in an anonymous function like this, then this won't run because it's still waiting for that function to actually be called. And so we don't always need to wrap it in an anonymous function because sometimes we're doing something where we don't need to, if we don't need to pass the function any arguments, then we can just leave it as it is without using the parentheses because it will just run automatically. But in this case, in order to pass in, let's do it props.key instead, that'll probably work. That way, it'll only run this function when we want it to. Uh-oh, article teaser key is not a problem.
So we haven't defined it.
Yeah, let's fix that up real quick. So you can't access key as a prop, I suppose. We can say ID also equals index. And then props.id. There we go. All right, does that make sense?
Okay.
All right. Any other questions about how we turn head article list, create a whole bunch of article teasers? Okay, great. So that's all pretty cool. Now we're going to change this up a bit and add some big changes to how our app is structured. Because we're going to be adding React router, which will actually allow us to have multiple pages on our application. So I'm going to first I'm going to do npm install React router DOM, run -- save. And like the reason we have this is when we were making our Django apps, it was very simple to set up URLs and built in. And we know, and Django has architecture in place that says when we go to, localhost blah 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 /articles/1, it knows, okay, that means I'm going to render these things. React by default doesn't do that. React is kind of built for single page applications. And sometimes we don't want that. Sometimes we want to make sure that we have this React front end, but we still want to be able to travel from URL to URL as if we were using the Django app. And React Router is this outside library that lets us do that. So I'm not going to worry about these vulnerabilities. It's probably fine. So I'm going to go to app.js. I'm going to import some new things. I don't need list line anymore. You have a lot of imports at app level. So I'm going to import browser router as router/and route from React router DOM. And then we need to rewrite our render function a bit. So I'm going to leave the app nav the same. down here, I'm going to make a router. Inside this router, I'm going to put a div. I'm actually going to get rid of article list entirely for now. Inside this div, I'm going to make some routes. I'm going to say exact path equals slash. We're going to call it, say, component equals homepage. I'm going to make another route, exact. This path is going to equal slash articles slash colon article ID. This component is going to equal article page. So you'll notice homepage and article page, we haven't really talked about this. But those are actually things that have been added for this particular challenge. But before we look at that, I need to npm start again. Give it a minute. So the router and the routes are invisible components. We're not actually going to see them, but they allow us to set things up so that we can actually visit other pages, which are defined with path. I do need to import these other things, I just realized. So those live in pages, and we've got article page.js and homepage.js. Let me do some quick importing. Right. Okay. So this is interesting. I don't have the article list here anymore, and yet you can see it there. And that's because we look at homepage.js. Homepage.js gives us an article list. So homepage.js was just another component that was written for us. But it's interesting that we're here because I didn't say render the homepage right now. It did that automatically. But if we look at the components, router, route, homepage, there it is. That's because in our app.js level, we defined slash, so meaning just our landing page, and we told it what component to run when we're on that page. So essentially what we've done is we've said, what router does is gives us a way of saying, okay, when you're giving us kind of its own built-in conditional rendering based on what the URL is. So while we're in, don't have anything else in our URI, rendered the homepage component. But if we go to slash articles with an article ID, we should see another component, right? Let's try it. Use /2. So we opened up, now if we can see, this route is open. And we are putting an article page. Really nothing there yet, I think. If we look at it. Yeah, right now it all it returns is a div.
But I need an article ID.
So in our route, we said articles, so we know that's part of the path. And then putting this colon here lets it know that we're going to be, this is like a placeholder by putting that colon there. It knows there's going to be something here that's going to tell us where the route is. So if I actually go to like article, it doesn't necessarily have to be an ID number, but if I do article slash, it'll try to take us there. we didn't tell it not that this could be anything. So it just didn't know what else to do. So it just took us to /article/Zavza, and nothing told it couldn't do that. So what we need to do next is we need to be able to say, all right, if we actually find this article with an article with this ID, we need to actually render it, right? But before I do anything else, I'm going to go back to the home page. Because right now, again, these links don't go anywhere. So I actually want these links to take me where I want to go. So I go back to article teaser, where the href is just that hash. I should be able to say, I want to go to actually, would it be?
Can we do it in href? Because we said prevent default.
Yeah, one sec. I want to make sure I'm doing this right. All right, yeah. Let's do something else.
Leave the hash and do the function.
So we still have props and handle title click that passes in props.id. Article teaser doesn't care what props.handle title click actually does. It'll just run it. So let's actually make this function useful. Handle title click takes a thing, renders a thing. Let's change thing to ID because we know that's what we're going to be giving it. I'm going to make this a multi-line function. I'm going to get rid of this part. So I want this to do is I want to trigger a movement in our web page. And one thing that homepage gives us is something called history. So I'm curious if this is going to work. May not. Line 50. Oh, what the heck did that come from?
What? Isn't it props?
Props. Thank you. Let's see if that actually works. It may not work. Because I think I may have. All right, interesting. So when I click on this, I get this thing from homepage.is line 9. A to-do. Use React router's history.push method to change the page to article/article ID. So let's take a look at homepage. What is it telling us? So homepage is also getting a handle title click. This is what it's console.logging. Interesting. Why is this? Well, I guess we are running. If I take a look at this one more time, I just do. I'm going to try one more thing. So it wasn't doing what I thought it would do, but it was doing something else. All right, so
It's not using that.
yeah. So it's using homepage here. So this gets an article ID as an argument. So do this in article list. Article list is handle title click. Okay. All right. Let me think about this for a moment. All right, I'm actually going to get rid of this handle title click for now. We're going to go back to use homepage here. I'm going to give homepage a function called handle title.
How does it determine priority if there is something like that, conflict of two different functions with the same?
I'm not entirely sure. So that is something worth looking into. I'm creating handle title click in this one, and then making sure I'm giving handle title click to my article list. This dot handle title click. Article list should give it to each of the article teasers, which should then run it. All right, so we should be able to click on these and get the article IDs again. There we go. All right, so the reason I was going through all of this is homepage, if we look at, we should be able to see this in the components list. Homepage has a prop built in called history. And history, this prop we can use to change the URL with JavaScript. So essentially it's the same effect as typing in a new URL, we're just letting JavaScript do it for us. And there's a few things we can do with that. And one thing we can do if we want to move somewhere is I can say this.prompts.history.push, and then I'm going to give it a new path to /articles/ article ID. Oh wait, I think this needs to be a string. All right, let's see if this works. There we go. So even though these aren't really functional A-links in the traditional sense, the href that we can still see here, it still leads to localhost 3000/hash, which isn't very helpful. We should probably update that. But it's this function using this.prompts.history.push, which is actually allowing us to navigate the page. And we take a click here, go back to the home page. We take a look at history, give it a little more things. So we have actions. It's got all of these functions we have, like go back, go forward. Get out of here. Location. So this is where we are now. And push. And that's the function that allows us to add things. So using this, when you have using a route kind of will automatically give that to anything it needs. And that gives us history, which allows us to mess URL. Pretty interesting, right? Any questions on how this works? Because I know I wasn't exactly doing the best explanation for it this time. Got a little bit confused for a moment. So this .prompts.history.push, it makes sense of why that took us where it took us. Okay. In that case, let's update our article page.js component so that it actually shows us stuff. So article page is an interesting case because if you look at so homepage has our article list. An article list shows us article teasers. None of this allows us to give props to our article page. So when we're on, localhost 3000/article/5, how is it going to know which article to render?
Article ID.
Yeah, we have access to this article ID up here. for example, we do console dot, well, let's not console.log yet. Let's open up our components list and see if we can find, what the heck? Inspect it. Take a look at our component list. Here's article page. Article page also has access to history, location, and it's also got something called match. And if we look at match, match has a key called params. Inside params, we've got something called article ID, which is 5. And right now, all of our news is coming from a JSON file, which we can import. So if I want to find this thing, I should just be able to look through it by getting that. So first, let's make sure we can actually get that by just, console.log this.props.match .params. Uh-oh. Oh, I need to put that inside the render function. Because this is a class-based function, not a functional component. So here's my params, article ID 5. So if I want to get that out of my JSON file, let's take a look at that. So we're going to need to be able to actually get that out of there, right? So there is going to be one thing. This is kind of a small problem. Right now, we can go to articles/0. And there's no specific rule that says that you can't have something with an ID of 0, but it's not considered good practice. And actually, I believe SQL databases automatically start counting at 1. So let's pretend we're going from a SQL database and we only want articles starting at, we get article 1, we should see the first article instead of the second article. So I'm actually going to do a little bit of cheating here. I'm going to say, all right. Let's add some, well, first off, we could keep this as a class component or we could not. What do you think? Functional class? It's already a class. Let's set up a constructor real quick. Actually, I don't think we need to do that. Well, the reason I'm thinking about this is I want to make sure I have some kind of function that allows us to retrieve the news article that we actually want to use here. And we could just do that. Well, yeah, we can just write that as a function now. We don't need state. What am I thinking of? It's Monday. So let's say make a function, call it retrieve article. We could say article ID is going to equal this.props.match dot what was it? Params. And inside params we want, or we should just be able to see dot article ID. And then if we look here, I believe that's going to be saved as a string. Yep, so we need to change that from a string into an integer. So let article, like real ID equal article, what would it be, parse int. Article ID -1. Why not +1? Wait. Thinking out loud again. So we want to be able to say, if we go to 1, we want to get the first one. So in that case, we want -1. And then we should be able to say return, and we've imported news up here. Return news using real ID.
Hello.
So now what I want to do, so once I've got that, I'm going to run, make sure it's working, console.log retrieve article. Here's an article.
Can you go over the one, the line at the 8 or something where you had the maps? And, yeah.
Yes. So, all right. So anything inside a route automatically gets access to this.props.match. If we look at that here, match includes something called params, including the article ID, because thanks to the path we defined when we created our React. It actually shows us that right here. The path is to /articles:\article ID, and that helps us create params right here. So I do. Now the params should be 53334. If I do a bunch of words here, the params will still remain the same. We'll match it. It just won't find an article. So in our console again, we've managed to get something from our JavaScript, from our JSON that is, and this should be the very first one in that JSON file.
So the -1 is just taking the 1 from the params and then making that 0 to match it to the JSON.
Exactly. So it's a little bit of a hacky solution, but what we got. But in the future, we probably have more efficient ways of retrieving that data from just a static JSON file. So we don't have to worry about this. All right, so almost getting there. So let's just real quickly make sure that we can actually render something, because we have an article component here. And right now it gets a title, created date, abstract, byline, and image from prompts using destructure. So I could say here, I want to return that div, and inside that div, I'm going to put an article. And let's make sure it gets all of the things that it requires. So title, created date, abstract, byline, and image. So instead of saying console.log this.retrieve article, I'm going to say let article equal this.retrieve article. And then I'm going to say, make sure I'm getting this right, title, created date. I'm just going to copy this so I know what I'm doing. So title going to equal article.title, created date, article.created date. Yeah, now I'm thinking about it. There's probably a quicker way to do this, right? Anyone have any ideas? There's an operator that I think we talked about last week that can we speed this up a bit. Spread operator. So instead, let's just give this thing some article, which is equal to that variable we defined, article. And an article.js right here. So right now, props.article should just equal that. So it should just be able to do this. And in this case, I don't think I'm going to be using, I think this is how to do it, right? Is this looking right to everybody right now? So I'm using the spread operator to retrieve the title, create a date. Well, it's telling us it's wrong. Let's make sure we're doing the spread operator correctly. It's one of those things that I only learned about actually relatively recently, and I'm just obsessed with it. But so we get one with an object. Object literal. Maybe we do need these things here. Okay, hey. All right, we're still, oh, there it is. Expeditia delectus voluptas ex rem. So, all right, so yes, spread. So you can see the spread operator gives us a copy of this that we destructure into here. So that way, an article page, we only need to pass in one object. You notice the image isn't showing up. The reason for that is somebody changed the structure of our news.json. Jerks. So if we look here, now it's got something called multimedia. And inside multimedia, we've got an array of different objects with URLs. So I'm gonna quickly mess around with this a bit.
Destructure.
Yeah, so instead of image, we'll get multimedia. So let's say like multimedia 0.url. Let's see if that works. Still not quite right.
Double check, make sure it's actually an article that has a multimedia too. Because it's
Yeah.
optional sometimes. Right?
Yeah, sometimes it's optional. We're in the very first one, which does have a multimedia.
Do you have to destructure the multimedia any further since it's its own object? With
Okay, you can destructure.
We can. I don't know if we have to.
But if we only just want one image, we could just index the first image if it's there.
Yeah. So if I do like console.log multimedia, let's see what actually shows up here.
Is that multimedia?
Not inside a function, I think.
Or,
It shows array. Array 0 caption URL. So we should be able to say multimedia 0 .url. That should work. Yeah, that worked. Works here, so why is it not very good? That's fine. Probably. Or not. Nope, still not working.
is there an image of that URL?
There it is. I look at. So I'm going to get rid of this conditional thing, just so we don't have to worry about it anymore. There we go. It's a tiny image, but it is an image. Okay, so we have created a thing that we can actually navigate a little bit. So we can go to localhost 3000, takes us to our home page, click on one of these links. All right, our links aren't actually taking us to the right pages yet because I think we gave it, so we did the ID on one side, not the other. So it's linking it to a one with the wrong ID. We'll worry about that later. Because we've been here about an hour and I want to make sure you guys get a break. And then when we get back from the break, we'll do some styling. So take a 10-minute break, come back at 10:05, and we'll actually make this look a little nicer.
Yeah, so things not.